Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. My name is Katie Gideon, and I will be the on camera facilitator for this event. I am dialing in from Edinburgh, Scotland, and I want to give a huge shout out to my co facilitator, Bailey, who you will see in the chat. We switched roles from yesterday, but it is always fun. I always get such great inspiration and ideas from Bailey. She is joining us from Tennessee, but we are glad to be here. We are glad to close out our social for the weekend with week 3 for November. So I am so glad to see a lot of our returning socialers in the chat. You guys are just pros at this. And starting to see some new people. Renee, welcome for a first time socialer. We love our returning socialers, but we also love our first time socialers. And I would say, get ready. I'm going to be the only one on camera, which is great for all of you. You guys get to get comfy, get cozy. I know it maybe got a little chilly over stateside, but you guys get to work on your journal, or maybe you just want to sit and be in the chat, or just sit and get some inspiration, listen to the music. We are glad that you've come exactly as you are. You can participate in as much or as little as you want. We are just glad that you're here joining us for the next hour to work on your self-care journey. So, as always, we just want to set some reminders. Please be kind and courteous to yourself and others. No promotions or spam. Please respect everyone's privacy. No hate speech or bullying. Limit repetitive product and accessory questions. And then we will redirect a lot of the customer inquiries to our team, hello@silkandsonder.com. But I also highly recommend you reaching out to them or using the survey at the end. And that's as we come to the end of the year, you can provide feedback on some of like the journal things. Maybe the layout is a little bit different, some of those colorations, all of those things, because this is that kind of time of the year as they start prepping for next year that we can start implementing some of those changes. And even last year, the changes that were made, taking away the breakfast, lunch, and dinner portion of that in the meal plan to keep it just that. So some of those subtle differences, we usually make those kind of adjustments about this time. And then as always, Sonder Socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community, but you are responsible for your own emotions, well-beings, and decisions. Hold on. Okay, back up. Sorry, that was really weird. But we are glad that you've come exactly as you are, and we are ready to get started. So we are still talking about the month of joy, which is, I know people have had mixed feelings about the theme for joy, and I feel like sometimes we usually tie it to the holidays as well. I know this has been one that we've used in the past before, just because I feel like it's certainly a universal theme. And what I even wanted to kind of realize, especially as we start moving into the holidays, I feel like a lot of the time is really no longer our own. And that's even just like work. I feel like either gets like a little bit hectic as you come to the end of the year closeout, or it gets a little less. I feel like it becomes one of those that the ability to kind of control and do a lot of things kind of on your own or yourself. So that's why I liked the idea of these quotes, which is the find joy by your own means, in your own way, that is good for you and harmless to your world. So I liked the idea of kind of taking back some of that control, especially around joy, and that joy and rest are yours. So I feel like those are kind of my mantras that I would like to do moving forward, at least kind of as I'm summing up November, is that a lot of it is something that we can kind of cultivate or we can explore. And I always love the idea of that, of being able to kind of turn it into something that I can make it, or even just like the little things that make me smile. And sometimes that, I will use like a really fun cup or those type of little things that kind of bring me joy that I can absolutely take control of. If I got some long meetings, which I do have some long meetings coming up. So the fact that I can put a nice drink in a super fun glass is something that I can control, and then taking just some ownership of those things. So that's kind of how I'm transitioning and embracing the theme of joy. And so we are going to work on the joy mind map. We are then going to do our rosebud thorn, and then we're going to work on those weekly pages. So, if you have not done the Joy Mind Map with us before, it is our opportunity to dive a little bit deeper into each month's theme. We usually keep it to 4 different questions, and these are things that are only done at the weekly social. So if you haven't set this up yet, don't worry, because we do include the previous week. So week 1 and 2 will be there. We're working on week 3. And so this is something that you can choose to work on, or maybe something that you don't choose to work on. I feel like it's been certainly helpful, but I think as I have mentioned before, I will sometimes struggle with the mind map a little bit because I'll be like, wow, I've answered these questions. I've done great things. Look at me, I filled a page. But sometimes it's then moving it into the so what factor. So what do I do with this information? But I feel like for joy, these were things that I could just kind of come back to kind of make me happy. And I feel like there are also those type of situations where it's certainly some of those things to kind of brain dump or put your thoughts and feelings onto it as a way to come back for inspiration. And maybe it is just the information to feel better, or maybe it is that kind of intuitive starting points for inspiration. So, first week we covered relationships, week 2 was nature, and now week 3 we're doing the joy of learning. So what excites you about learning and personal growth? How can you incorporate more joyful learning experiences into your life? And as always, not only do we have that question that we can answer, but I love coming up with alternates. Because I feel like that's just how my brain works. You know, if you give me specific questions, I'm going to want to try to tweak it so that I can get more joy out of the question because I've reworded it. So we have those. What I think is another way you can explore this is what is something that has brought you joy recently that you have learned. So you could look at something, you know, within the last month, then the last week, you know, one of those like aha moments that you want to celebrate, but also the reminder that learning takes place everywhere. So this could be the joy of coming from places, interactions, even just Google search. I don't know where I was without Google search because I'm definitely one of those when I see a commercial or a TV show or something like that and I'm like, where has this person been in? How tall is this person? You know, I find the joy in like that instant confirmation. It can also be somewhere that maybe you want to celebrate something that you learn and put into practice afterwards. I always love that idea of reflecting on something that really kind of still resonates or that you think of. And then I also liked the idea of, is there something that maybe you need to unlearn to bring you joy? I feel like that ties into the kind of taking ownership of the joy. And it was more of, I was sitting there thinking of the things of like, I wish I didn't know then what I didn't know now type. So I thought it was an interesting play on maybe some things that you need to unlearn to bring you joy. So I'm going to give you guys some time to work on that and we will see you soon, but we are working on the mind map week 3. I'll cycle back through these slides, but let me know if I need to go to a different one and we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. And I did notice that Rev posted in the chat that, sometimes there's not enough mind for the maps, which I feel like can be true. And that's why I always provide the quote at the bottom with "Don't force what doesn't flow. You're allowed to take space and revisit things later." That is one thing that I do like about the mind map, is that you do have the rest of the week to explore this. But I do also know that some of these can be really open-ended, and that can be really tricky, which is why we try to provide some of these repurpose or reframing questions. Or this can be just another space that you can either doodle, you can add some more stickers to, or you can have just another kind of thought bubble or brain dump on the theme. Or again, it looks great with quotes and affirmations. I feel like that's where a lot of my fundamental inspiration comes from. As I'm prepping for socials, especially around the themes, I always try to find a quote to kind of describe the thoughts and feelings to give me a focal point. And so I think that's kind of where this can be a good thing. But it's also one of those things we like to start the socials with this, just so you can build a little bit more of a relationship with the theme that we can then potentially carry into the weekly setup pages. But you get to participate this in any way that you want. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes you need it, sometimes you don't. And we are glad that you are just kind of giving yourself that permission and making up your mind, setting those boundaries of what you need going forward. Which then leads us to our next opportunity for reflection, which is Rosebud Thorn. And I feel like this is another one of those that is a really excellent tool, not only to acknowledge the highs and the lows and everything in between of the past week, but you can also pull from it some of those fundamental action items. What are things that you can start doing to maybe get a few more roses or cultivate some of those buds? Maybe there are things that you want to stop doing because it created a thorn, or maybe things that you want to continue doing to, again, maybe cultivate some of those. But I feel like what I have found really cathartic with the rosebud thorn is just being able to write it down or put it out into the universe, because again, there's no judgment on it. It's just the things that are on my mind, either that I feel like I just feel better because they're there and I've been able to acknowledge them in this kind of category that I probably wouldn't have thought of before. So being able to pull some of those ideas out of my head into a category and then move forward with what I want with them, I feel like is really great. So the rose is going to be that highlight for the week, something that was fun, something that was a win, something that was positive, something that you want to celebrate. For me, I went and saw & Juliet, the musical. It was so much fun. It was clever, it was cheesy, it was 90s and 2000s nostalgia all rolled into one. I loved the costumes, I loved the set design, there was so much magic, and I guarantee you I owned the CD version of every single one of the songs that was played. So I just loved it. It's such a fun show. I just left singing it, and you'll hear some of those songs pop up here because I just love them. The bud is something that's an emerging opportunity, something that you're looking forward to, something that's coming up, something that maybe could go either way, you just want to cultivate. The Edinburgh Market opened this weekend, and what I like about it is because it gets so dark here early, it's always lit up, and so it becomes that kind of really nice literal light in the dark that brings so much joy just when I walk past it or walk near it, not always needing to participate. But I don't know, I'm a sucker for, twinkly lights on fixtures and trees. So it's a really fun, and it's usually here until well into January. So again, it's that, like I said, beacon of light in the dark that just makes me happy when I'm commuting home from work. And then the thorn, that's going to be a challenge, something that isn't quite going well, something that was a speed bump, a roadblock, or I always hate, maybe you don't want to dwell on the negative, but it's more of maybe it's something that's taking up too much time, energy, or too much brain space. For me, one of my very, very close friends from San Diego, they were the type that would call on like a random day and be like, we've got extra, show up for dinner, just come as you are, come hang out, bring whatever you want to bring. So we were those type of just friends. They were amazing support system. And unfortunately, she received some bad news, something that I went through years ago, but it's one of those that's a little sad and disappointing that the process hasn't changed. But I do feel a little bit better that she can come to me and share some of those struggles with that particular career journey and all the other things that goes with it, but it's certainly a process I wouldn't wish on anybody, because it's a lot of mental. She's in for certainly a mental battle more so than the physical, which I feel like is always the case. But it was certainly, I'm sad for her, so that made me a little sad. So that is my thorn. I would love to hear your rosebud thorn if you want to share in the chat. Double check that it's to everyone, because we do love to celebrate all of those roses, get excited about the buds, but also acknowledge and provide extra love and support and thoughts for those thorns. We'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. And Man, y'all gotta keep me honest. I didn't provide any page numbers, just going off all sorts of scripts here. But this was on page 44. This was the rosebud thorn. But thank you everybody for sharing. What I do really, really love about the magic of the rosebud thorn, as well as doing these socials, is just the outpouring of the community that has been here. So like I said, I always feel better being able to kind of throw my rosebud thorn out into this wonderful community to, again, it's just that added acknowledgement that things maybe aren't going as great as they could be, but there are some nice shining moments. There are things to get excited about. There are things that everyone is going on their own type of event. You know, I feel like that's the whole definition of Sonder, is that everyone is having their own unique and vivid experience. So being able to come together and acknowledge these on a weekly basis, I get a lot of joy, not from the actual kind of components of them, because there are some really tough things in there. It's the joy of being able to share them and come together with that type of support entity. So thank you everybody for sharing. And now we are going to move into the main event, which is why we are here, those weekly setup pages, which are going to be page 46 and 47. I'll keep reminding them as we go. But it can be a lot, and it can be a little bit overwhelming when it comes to the setup. I feel like there are days where I am frustrated with my setup. There are days where it is what kind of keeps me hanging on. But I always like to start out asking myself, what do I need? What do I need this week? And so this is your opportunity to kind of reframe that. You can repurpose everything. You cannot use anything. You can use everything. You can use it exactly as written. There is no right or wrong way to do this. No one is going to come in and check to see what you've done. This is absolutely a make this your own, because this is another tool in your tool belt to help as you are navigating your week. So starting at the top of page 46 with this week I want to feel. So I have included this week I want to feel the organizationally committed, which I know sound really kind of scary and very harsh, but it's more of I have pretty decent organization skills. I'm just not doing it. I'm like blatantly ignoring it because I don't know, it's cold, I'm pouting, all the feelings. So my plan for how I want to feel this time next week is organizationally committed. And so other ways you can approach this, but this is an opportunity to ask yourself, how do you want to feel this time next week? And so this can be a word that you have used before. This could be your word of the year. This could be your word of the month. This could be one word, it could be multiple words, it could be a phrase, it could be more something, less something, it could be a specific definition, it could be a sticker of some sort. But I always think of it as, how do you want to feel this time next week? So if you want to just start throwing into the chat how you want to feel this time next week. I love the intentional inspiration that this can provide. I'm going to turn on just a little bit of music to play in the background, hopefully get you some information, but I want to know how you want to feel this time next week. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I loved seeing, again, that intentional inspiration for how we want to feel this time next week. It is kind of that, I mean, not to sound dramatic, it is that kind of opportunity that I feel like I like to take every weekend to kind of put into a control a little bit of here's my answer for the end of the week, and now we get to put in all the pieces to help us get to that answer. So we are still again on page 46, and I'm taking a page straight out of Bailey's playbook with the weekly to-dos and weekly major three goal combination. And I have included mine for this week. I'm putting the two together and I'm bringing out a bingo board. I'm usually not a bingo board person, but the type of week that I have, I've kind of got random things to do, both positive and negative. And I've already marked off one of my things. I needed to flip my mattress because that's exciting on a Sunday, but I did get to mark off one of my bingo squares. And then I broke down my major three goals into three different categories: a work category, a hobby category, and a body category. And so with that being said, your weekly major three goals, for these, they can be the actual things that you want to do. They can be a categorization of those type of things, but I feel like for me, these are usually the overarching reminders, either mental or intentional or kind of a focus point. These are less of the tangible things, but these are the ideas that I want to kind of strive for how I need to feel the way I want to feel this time next week. And so again, categories are a great way to do this. We bring in some of the stickers, but I also love that someone put their weekly goals over the weekly to-dos, because the to-dos do better on graph paper, you know, those type of things. Love it. Someone has a me, a home, and a work goal. We love alliteration, so maybe it's a productive, peaceful, powerful goal. Maybe it is a frog, fun, and fierce. Again, some of the bingo boards, and you'll see some of those that will treat it as completely unique when it comes to goals versus the to-dos. Someone just broke it into kind of a routine, so these are maybe the things they want to do every day, but it's an early, a midday, and an evening. Or again, that connection, like I said, the bingo board with the categories. Maybe these are just general reminders, or maybe these things you want to stop doing. Again, more of the alliterations. And then as we move into kind of the to-do category or some of those repurposing, it's more of the, maybe you have weekly affirmations that go here. Love that, Katie, embracing in the November. Maybe it's to feel more joy, I will do these things. And then we move into those to-do lists. Maybe it's a to-do list. I am more of a ta-da person because I do like to celebrate, hence the fact that I had already done something on my bingo board so I could celebrate. But I have found that the to-do section tends to change pretty frequently for me. And that again is just based on what I have to do. So it's usually a combination of a to-do list. I am a big Eisenhower Matrix fan because I usually just have a random listing. And so being able to categorize those into a do, decide, delegate, and delete, I think can be great. But at the same time, I live alone, so delegation can be a little tricky, but I do find ways to delegate. If I don't want to clean dinner, if I don't want to cook dinner, I delegate it to a restaurant. Same thing with some of the other things. I never delete anything, I only delay it. So that just sometimes help when I have a hard time figuring out what's going to come next. And then you can also incorporate the Pomodoro technique, especially if those tasks have multiple pieces. But as you'll see, the ta-da bingo boards are there. But maybe this is, again, just a reframing. Maybe it's a listing of the needs and the wants of the to-do list. Maybe it's a to-be list. Maybe it's weekly joys. Embracing a little bit of the theme, weekly wins. Maybe, again, embracing that no in November with the not to do. Someone also has the categorization of a work and a personal, so the need, want, and hope within the work and the personal categories. Love the weekly ahas, those are always great. So I'm going to give you some time to work on your weekly major three goals, the to-dos, and again, we're on page 46. And I would love to see, do you incorporate these two together or do they stay separate and you just got to kind of get through what you get through? But I would certainly love a same thing if you have things that always show up on your to-do list or keep, those repeat carry over from week to week. Would love how you kind of break some of those trends, but we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I love the conversations in the chat. You know, that's what makes these socials really special. I feel like I do get a little bit lucky because I do get to set up my journal kind of earlier than most, and then I do get to sit and enjoy. But I think that's what's so special about these is this. You really should be asking yourself, what do you need from this? And that's from the social, from the journal, all of those things. Because once you start kind of finding the joy in those type of things, I feel like that's when kind of the more magical side of what the journal can bring to do. But loved the combination of the to-dos and the goals, being able to see those together and being able to use those as such. So we're still going to stay on page 46. Now we're moving to that habit and activity tracker. I am absolutely a creature of habit. So my monthly tracker stays very much the same. I have the top 3 things and I'll bring in kind of newer things as we go. But for me, you know, my 3 things that I want to do every day is move, read, and journal, and those kind of varying combinations. So I took the opportunity to kind of do a slightly different habit and activity approach. These again is a little bit more of a variation on the to-do list. I have some assignments due, so I want to do those every single week, day of the week. Laundry, I know it sounds a little dramatic, but it just takes a couple more phases over here. So making sure that I kind of incorporate all that, I feel like it kind of is, as I move into the holidays, those type of things that I want to just keep doing. So I've assigned those to specific days. Finish the day is kind of a catch-all thing that I use where it's, did I get everything from my daily to-do list done? Did I send out all of my emails? Did I do all the dishes in the dishwasher? Did I put away everything that I had for the day? So that's kind of how I remind myself to finish the day so that when I wake up, you know, all the things are where they need to be, all the things are done, and I can start anew each day. So that I find really important, especially during the week. And I've been kind of struggling with that a little bit, so I wanted to make a conscious effort for it. And then again, next year prep is just more of, I've got a couple other calendars, planners, things that I start to incorporate. So putting some time in it to actually look into it and some of the logistics around it. And then obviously Sonder events. But other ways that you can approach it is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you can absolutely set goals. Maybe you don't want to set goals. Maybe these again are tying into that no November concept. So maybe these are habits and activities you want to stop. Maybe as we move into those holidays, you are traveling to go see family or family is coming to see you. So maybe the habits and activities are less of the structure that you need. So you can put some stickers and stuff to cover it because that's not what you need this week. Or maybe that is exactly what you need this week. So it becomes that type of thing. Maybe this is where some of those more general reminders can be. I do like the fact that you can do weekdays can look a little bit different from weekends. And just because there are 5 lines does not mean you need to do 5 different things. Maybe it's 3 things, maybe it's 2 things, maybe it's 1 thing. You know, I feel like it's more of an idea to manage your expectations. And as I said, time becomes a little less of your own. So making sure that you set yourself up for that type of thing, which again is why I pulled some of my monthly habits that I want to do kind of off my weekly, because I don't need to kind of duplicate at the moment. I need to kind of focus on some of those one-off things that I'm not quite incorporating into my routine as much. And then you guys, if you've come to my socials before, you know I am a sucker for iconography. So I love incorporating something fun, something new, something that's gonna spark a little bit of joy. And so I loved the instant mood boosters idea. So maybe you need to add that as one of your line items. The deep breathing I think is great. The walk-in natures, letting go of what you can't control. Or if you work at someplace, I work from home, so little ways to look after yourself at work, or just reminders to kind of take those breaks, starting incorporating those. I think these can be a great way to incorporate that as well. The autumn slow care ideas. And then I just like the idea of 10 things you might need to hear today, because I was feeling just a little bit bummed. The weather got really cold here. It's been kind of dark and moody and all the things, and I've just been in my feels. So here are also maybe those 10 things that you need to hear today. So let us know what habits and activities you are working on. How do you incorporate these weekly with maybe the monthly? And how do you give yourself the grace to kind of tackle all these? And we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. And I will put it in the chat in a minute, but I thought the 20-20-20 was a good idea, which is every 20 minutes, take a break from your screen, look 20 feet away for at least 20 seconds. That has been a reminder because I have struggled when I am on like data heavy days and do a lot of staring at my monitor, but that has been really, really great advice, I feel. But I feel like those are a lot of just really great things to bring up every now and then because I think those are the little things that we forget. But thank you everybody for sharing. Love getting the inspiration of kind of how you approach these, but also other things that you're incorporating. I get some inspiration to kind of try new things. But thank you. We are now going to flip over to page 47 for the second page, or the B-side. I lovingly refer to it as the B-side because, again, I am a music person. So it is the B-side of a record, something that I don't always listen to, but there are some amazing gems when you need them. This is one of those weeks. It's not really something that I need. So with the meal plan, it is going to be, you can use it absolutely as a meal plan. It can be a meal tracker. You can either do it in real time or some of those kind of pre-prep for it, especially if you are a food prepper. You can also, maybe this is where your one good thing is, one thing that brings you joy, something that sparks your joy each day. Maybe this is more of the to-do list or the meetings list, kind of the planner aspect. Love the idea of the meal plan for the soul. So maybe this is where some of those prompts can kind of go in, especially around the theme. Trust was one of the previous themes, but you can change it with joy. How did you show joy to yourself today? How did you trust others? Kind of all those things as you incorporate some of those more journal prompts. It can also be used for leftovers. I think that's really great, especially as we move into the holiday season, because a lot of people, we have a little bit more time at home. And same thing with some of the big holidays, a lot of food, which means a lot of leftovers. So being able to track those so that you don't unintentionally make yourself sick is great. Also a good place for affirmations, priorities. Maybe this is where you have your clothing or vacation or even travel packing. I use it when I travel for work to figure out what I'm gonna wear and pack. Maybe it's a word of the day. Maybe it's how you filled your cup. The other one that again gets repurposed, I'm going to go through this entire page, but then we'll go back as we close out to show some of those examples. So you've got the mind, body, health plan, which that can kind of go again as one of those, you can either intentionally schedule those, or it can be something that you can do in real time. I think this particular month with this particular theme, you can do it kind of in real time. What is something that brought you joy for your mind, body, or health each day? So I may be potentially pulling that into this particular week. It can also be, again, some of those alliterations. Again, with the theme of no for November, maybe it's the unplugging for an hour. What are the things that you're saying no to for your mind, body, and your health? And I love it when Nathania's in the crowd because I adore her T-chart with the I feel this, therefore I need this. This is a really, really elegant but powerful, simple tool to ask yourself how I'm feeling and I need this. And you can kind of go hand in hand with those because I feel like, again, we don't always ask ourselves that as often as we probably should. It's those definite like self check-ins that I think need to become, at least for me, a little bit more kind of embedded in my day-to-day actions and activities. Maybe it again is that highlight of the day, especially if you struggle to find some of those roses or find some of those joys. That's where you can kind of put that there. Again, the iconography of things to look forward to in November. Another place to put some of those journal prompts. And then I also feel like it's another one of those to kind of reiterate the 7 types of rest. Sometimes we feel physically tired, but we probably need some other rest, and those can be social, spiritual, mental, creative, emotional, sensory, and physical. I certainly know around this time of year, my social rest definitely needs more attention than some of the other things. But maybe this is a reading log, maybe this is a cleaning log, maybe it's more of a prepping for these type of things, but being able to kind of repurpose this to what works for you. Maybe you want to focus on a particular morning routine or an afternoon routine. Like I said, for me, finish the day, I already know in my head what that consists of, but maybe you repurpose the mind body health plan to kind of the finish the day tasks that you want to do if you don't quite put them in your habit or your to-do list. I have written those out before in the mind body health plan because I've repurposed it that, but for me, those are the activities that I know will put me at ease to finish my day. And again, iconography, so here are just those lessons for November. And again, just some reminders, especially as we just go through the trickier times of November, end of the year, and the holidays, and the darker, less sunlight, all of the things to kind of embrace all of those, still wanting to get outside and think of those things. I love these reminders, and I feel like I've just been in that. I need the external validation to be happy with myself at the moment, and that's okay. I just know that's what I need right now. And then we have the shopping list, which can go hand in hand with that meal plan. And same thing with those, the shopping list for me, especially when it comes to a packing list, that turns to like the other additional accessories, you know, chargers, bags, some of those extra things that I need. But maybe this is where daily rituals live. As we said, the bingo boards are quite popular, especially with the gamification of getting things done. So you've got, you know, you name the theme and we probably can turn it into a bingo board. So you've got the boring stuff bingo, the celebrate the wins bingo, maybe it's a finding joy bingo, the just for fun. Maybe you have a birthday coming up or another major milestone that you want to celebrate. You can turn that into a bingo. Again, some of those self-care reminders. Maybe it's, again, the social check-in. Check in on your friends, check in on your family. So maybe you can kind of take a little bit more of that effort, because I know it'll certainly be joy to lots of people if you kind of focus in on that. But it also could be those reminders for to be, the shopping list for the don't buy or the buy. Maybe, again, those mini breaks for work, a hobby bingo, or just a place to put stickers. Quotes, maybe it's a note to yourself. I liked the November intentions of do these, don't do these, kind of still embracing that no November, but also still embracing the Joy-vember of things. So I would love to hear how you approach the second page. Is it something that you use as written? Is it something that you repurpose? Or are you listening to it like the B-side that I do as well? I would love to have that conversation in the chat, and we will see you soon for our closing comments. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. You all provided such amazing inspiration and such great repurposing ideas. And then the very last section on page 47 with the I am loving, this is your opportunity to just kind of throw out there anything and everything that you are loving. So if you want to share in the chat what you are currently loving, either this week or today or even just right now, we would love to see that in the chat. Always liking to end on a pretty positive note. I feel like if you've been to one of my socials, if you aren't chair dancing and working on your habits and shouting out what you're loving, then we're doing it wrong. But thank you, everybody, for being so wonderful and sharing in the chat. As always, we would love to continue the conversation in the app. We would love to see your pages, especially if you want to share those with us. You guys provide such amazing inspiration, just great ideas to the overall Sonder fam, and any opportunity to just see all the cool and amazing stuff that you guys are doing certainly brings joy to me. And then here are some of those QR codes. Bailey is also putting them in the chat. But the big ones that I personally want to highlight is definitely on those surveys. Fill out the surveys. That's everything to do with the socials. The color themes for those themes, all of those things. This is certainly the time of year to provide some of that overall feedback, especially with the color palettes, layouts, all of those things. We read everything, so we would love to get everyone's thoughts and opinions on those. And as always, the YouTube link, if you show up late or have to leave early or do not have a schedule that fits with the current scheduled socials, you can always catch up there or also get the wonderful other perspectives from the other facilitators. It's always a great way to catch up, especially if you just need a social and there isn't one scheduled. Here is my playlist. I will also include the link to the Spotify playlist in the chat. And as always, I keep all of my playlists from all of my socials, so they're really pretty solid 30-minute instrumentals for whatever theme or vibe you need. I will certainly turn those on at work or even journaling. I also know my sister uses them. But as always, thank you so much for spending your Sunday evening with us. We are so glad that we were able to set up for week 3 of November. I hope that it brings you joy, and I hope to see you at a future event, and we will see you soon. Bye.
I bought a new pair of shoes. I got a new attitude when I walk, 'cause I'm so over you. And it's all about tonight. I'm going out with the girls, ready to show all the boys